Hey guys, Ron here, and one of the primary reasons Pokemon is so popular is because there are a plethora of different reasons every single fan plays the main series of Pokemon games. Whether it be to collect lovable creatures or to strategically battle online, each generation offers a rather unique experience. As I've showcased in my best parts of every generation video, each region has its strengths and weaknesses, but it's not that simple. In this video, I will tell you which main series game is the best or second best option to play based on every single aspect that Pokemon games have to offer. So which game should you play if you value exploration, or which Pokemon game has the most challenge? This is a huge undertaking and I have tons of biases, so I thought it would be best to collaborate with a friend to make sure we have the most solid answers to these questions. And that's why I'm finally inviting the Aura Guardian to help.
That's right, Ron. And might I say, you're looking very handsome today. Ron, I don't remember this being in the script. I didn't agree to this.
Let's start with the story. I know Pokemon isn't known for its riveting plots, but if you're looking for the best plot the main series has to offer, most fans consider Pokemon Black and White and their sequels to excel in their story. They tackled heavier themes than previous titles like the autonomy of Pokemon and balance, its characters are essential and evocative, and many plot points get neatly resolved in a groundbreaking sequel.
As for other strong stories, Sun and Moon were arguably the first to introduce a more cinematic experience. The themes of Black and White story may be more complex and plot-driven. However, Sun and Moon's story arguably offers more emotion and investment to individual characters. Also a shout out to Red, Blue and Green for having one of the best rival and villain formulas, with Blue and Team Rocket being the gold standard when it comes to Pokemon rivals and antagonists.
Likewise, Platinum and XY have great elements of a good backstory, but not the best execution or plot. Interaction with Pokemon is next. Which games allow you to experience these creatures in the most immersive way?
In terms of overworld Pokemon, no main series game does it better than the Switch titles. I think it's safe to say that everyone believes that overworld Pokemon encounters are a much more dynamic experience than random ones. Being able to see how Pokemon act in the wild, like with Abras that'll teleport away if you get too close, makes a pretty big difference. Let's Go's execution of this concept is a close second, along with the inclusion of overworld shinies.
That does make it a contender, but Sword and Shield's camp feature is a fun way to see your Pokemon bond with each other as well. The DLC's admittedly janky following mechanic helps too, but when it comes to interacting with your own Pokemon, Gen 7 needs to get as much credit, with Pokemon Refresh still being the premier way to bond with your party members. But before Let's Go, people would definitely cite Heart Gold and Soul Silver as the game in which fans could bond with any Pokemon of theirs, considering its following mechanic was a huge selling point.
Next up, let's talk about the Pokédex itself. Since quality is completely subjective, we'll focus on quantity first. Generation 5 introduced more new Pokemon than any other, not including things like Mega Evolutions and Gigantamax forms. But in terms of the total amount of Pokemon available to encounter, X and Y, believe it or not, has every other main series game beat. In the base game, that is. We're not counting Sword and Shield's DLC right here, although Sword and Shield would be a close second.
And while a region's roster needs heavy analysis to determine its quality, we can talk about which region has the most amount of Pokemon that believably live and thrive in their environments. The Alola games have so many Polynesian and tropical inspired Pokemon, so they win in this aspect, but the Hoenn games do have a ton of Pokemon whose designs and inspirations match the themes and climate of the Hoenn region. But now let's talk about collecting. Which games would you have the most fun completing the available decks? If you're looking for ease, Let's Go's smaller roster, overworld Pokemon, and focus on Pokemon Go style catching will be satisfactory. But Sword and Shield, in my personal opinion, are the most fun to catch Pokemon in, because they're all interactable and less tedious to discover than any Pokemon game by far.
If you're up for a challenge though, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire is probably the best pick, with some of the most intricate ways of finding specific Pokemon, with methods such as the Dex Nav and searching for wormholes. Ultra Sun and Moon is also up there, with a massive Dex to fill, Pokemon you can only find with Island Scan, SOS, and Ultra Warp Ride.
But a ton of fans play Pokemon for the region itself. Before we cover the regional landscape, I think a region's culture and themes are as important. I'm constantly learning about new details that every region has, so my opinions are ever changing. Basically every region since Johto has done a great job of establishing some sort of culture and theme. Johto barely has a plot, so it chooses to focus on the rich culture of its region as the driving force of the player's experience.
But I personally believe that Sword and Shield have done a pretty great job in regards to translating real-world Britain into a Pokemon region. Galar is filled with British culture, from small details like signs and slang to to literal recreations of English cities. Like, Wyndon is literally London. Also, the train stations, exactly like real-life train stations here in the UK.
Yeah, it's more blatant than Univa's depiction of New York. I'd say Black and White 2 are runner-ups considering they were the first region to own the fact that it was explicitly a Pokemon version of a real-world location. Then again, Kanto is literally the Kanto region of Japan, and Johto is Kansai, and Hoenn and Sinnoh are, they're all pretty Japanese. But Unova feels like New York, from Castelia's lower Manhattan vibe to the diversity of its characters. Unova's theme of balance and unity coincide with New York's focus on those same principles. Also, the Gen 6 games are incredibly French, and the 7 games are as Hawaiian as can be. I think Alola embraces its culture and themes even more so, since its mechanics like the Island Challenge and its themes line up with Hawaiian culture. In the end, your preference is the deciding factor in this category.
When looking at which region has the best landscape though, Unova arguably wins. The variety of different looking towns, beaches, landmarks, deserts, dungeons and areas is almost unmatched. There's no single area that looks the same as the other, especially with the seasonal changes, not to mention the areas that are exclusive to each region, such as White Forest and Black City, and even more in Black and White 2. Honestly, there's a pretty good chance that you yourself haven't explored every area in Unova.
Speaking of which, exploration is next. After all, a region can be rich in culture and have many locations, but how the developers design the region is a huge factor in gameplay. If you're looking for a great deal of freedom and a relatively non-linear journey, Fire Red and Leaf Green's Kanto and Sevi Islands are where it's at. Although Johto's non-linearity is not as balanced as Kanto, Heart Gold and Soul Silver are the ideal versions of Johto and its dynamically laid out locations.
I think no one's gonna disagree with me when I say that Sinnoh has arguably the most well-known routes in any Pokemon game. In terms of explorations and things to find, they're much more dynamic than others, and even have some of the best music in any Pokemon game to accompany them.
While I believe Unova excels in routes as well, especially since seasons change them up every time you revisit them, when it comes to landmarks, Unova can't be beat. What's the point of mentioning places like Relic Castle, the Giant Chasm, and Flockacy Ranch if there are literally 40 more landmarks to explore, like Reversal Mountain, which changes depending on the version you're playing, and tons of caverns and monuments to find legendary Pokemon in?
There are so many memorable towns within the Pokemon franchise. It'd be near impossible to pick which game has the best, but even though Sword and Shield might not have the most iconic towns and cities right now, the amount of detail that went into them visually is unmatched. That's partially due to the games being on Switch, but so is Kanto, so I'd argue that the looks of the Galar towns are much more vibrant, colourful and detailed. As someone actually from the UK, I lost count by the amount of times I was impressed by how much the region reminded me of places in my home country, with Kalos coming in a close second for similar reasons.
Puzzles are a huge deal to some players. When it comes to the game with the best gym puzzles, a lot of fans would pick X and Y. When it comes to actual dungeons, Sinnoh has more puzzles than any region combined, and Unova has a ton of hidden locations that reward problem solving. Kanto gets a nice little mention though, with Pokemon Tower, the Silphco, Rocket Hideout, and the various locations that its legendaries are housed in.
Characters in the main series have become much more important over time, so it's no surprise that the Sword and Shield characters turned out to be the most fleshed out and unique looking we've had so far. Every character has a distinct personality trait, ranging from the upbeat energy of Hop to the more laid-back, sweet but tough style of Marnie. Every character has a colourful, distinct look, really making them stand out compared to other main series games, especially given how many new characters there are.
But while Galar excels in the design and expressions of its characters, in terms of character involvement, Unova is first place. Almost all of the major characters are essential to both the region and its plot, but second place goes to Sun and Moon. While there are less important characters, the characters that do have the spotlight are critical to the story.
If you're looking for returning characters and fan favourites, Ultra Sun and Moon might be a must when it comes to recommending to someone. With the Battle Tree and Rainbow Rocket Postgame, the amount of returning characters is pretty ridiculous compared to other games. But Black and White 2's World Tournament is also a strong contender as well. Literally every past gym leader, except Koga, get some spotlight in this game, making it a very satisfying addition as a Pokemon fan.
Now, lore is a huge part of Pokemon nowadays, but as you can tell, each region excels in different aspects. There is the lore of the Pokemon themselves, the lore of the region, and the theories that fans have gotten super attached to. The games with the most lore in regards to the wild Pokemon you find are definitely the Alola games. While games like Sinnoh have Pokemon gods, the rest of the Pokemon don't tie into the region as succinctly, but basically every single Alola Pokemon is tied to a location, tradition, or lifestyle that Alola showcases, whether it be Oricorio's many forms or Silvali's creation. Each Pokemon has some kind of story and importance to Alola. All Alola Pokemon, especially Alolan forms, have a fleshed out way of life and reason for existing.
And the lore of the region itself definitely enhances the story. The Sinnoh region is full of myths and legends, from the Three Lakes to the stories within the Kennelave library. Hell, the Pokemon's version of God is even from this region. It's pretty hard to top that. Johto's region is also pretty lore heavy, with the story of the 3 Pokemon being revived in the Burn Tower, Celebi hiding within Elix Forest, and the stories behind Lugia and Ho-Oh, so it's a good second place.
Now sometimes a region doesn't have the best lore, but can still make a lasting impact in the Pokemon community. I'd say the Kanto games have inspired the most Pokemon theories, and X and Y have established the most speculation in regards to Kalos' war and how the mechanics like Mega Evolution and Infinity Energy fit into this world. But let's cut to the chase. Which Pokemon game has the most stuff? In terms of content, it seems like Black and White 2 are packed with the most locations, side content, characters, and mechanics. Sword and Shield should have the most potential for expansive content, while with the wild area, accessible competitive, raid battles, completing the regional decks, and most importantly, DLC, it seems like these games are ever expanding.
A runner-up would be the Gen 4 games. Platinum brought back contests and the Battle Frontier, as well as other original content. Who could forget the Underground, for example? Not only did we get to dig stuff up, but we also got our own version of a secret base, as well as our own personal villa. Heart Gold and Soul Silver's content goes even further. Not only are we getting 2 regions for the price of 1, we also got the Pokeathlon, as well as Sinnoh's Battle Frontier, carrying on to these games, making them a pretty huge Pokemon game.
I think what Alex is trying to say is that these games have the most side content, so if you're looking for Pokemon games with extra additions other than superficial trainer battles, Heart Gold and Soul Silver are up there, with Black and White 2 in second place. Ultra Sun and Moon are honorable mentions with tons of minor side missions.
Black and White 2 had medals that were obtained by completing specific tasks, and there were a lot of them. Emerald and Platinum are also honorable mentions, with things to do like contests, the Battle Frontier, as well as the Underground and secret bases.
Postgame is one of the deciding factors when it comes to the longevity of a classic Pokemon game. When it comes to quantity, once again I nominate Black and White 2. I think I'm just biased. We all know that you have other games in mind, and it's not that simple.
Because, in terms of quality, there are 2 aspects to judge. If you're looking to continue your Pokemon journey and explore even more of the region, once becoming champion, Heart Gold and Soul Silver have an entire second region, and Platinum has many new diverse routes to explore. It could also be argued that the DLC for Sword and Shield counts as post-game stuff as well, so we'll get that a soft honorable mention, while Black and White gets the honorable mention status as well, considering about half the region is unlocked after you beat Team Plasma.
When it comes to actual post-game facilities, pick up Heart Gold and Soul Silver for 8 more gyms and a Battle Frontier. Second place goes to Black and White 2 for its Pokemon World Tournament and version exclusive locations, and Emerald for its superior Battle Frontier.
Next, let's talk about the most challenging Pokemon experiences, with one of the most important features of any Pokemon main series game, the battles. In terms of which game had the most memorable, challenging, rewarding battles in the series, Diamond and Pearl quite possibly takes the cake. The combination of level differences, trainers like Flint and Volkner having more varied and unpredictable Pokemon teams, giving their type speciality, and freaking Cynthia, aka debatably the best, most difficult champion in Pokemon still.
As Alex indicated, there are games with huge spikes in difficulty when it comes to bosses. Ultra Necrozma is a great example of that in Ultra Sun and Moon, but I also personally think the bosses in those games like the Kahunas and the Totems are more challenging than general tough battles in most regions. An honorable mention goes to Heart Gold and Soul Silver though, since while their gym leaders other than Whitney and Claire aren't generally tough, Lance and Red are two of the hardest battles in the franchise. Competitive is tricky. If you're looking for a Pokemon game with the best competitive scene, X and Y takes the cake when it comes to online accessibility. It really was the renaissance of competitive battling. People believe Megas were fun and balanced too. But in terms of how easy it is to train a team, I think Sword and Shield are the games I'd recommend. Plus the competitive scene is way less boring nowadays since the meta is constantly changing whenever a new batch of Pokemon are introduced through DLC.
Talking about simplicity, Fire Red and Leaf Green are some of the most user-friendly Pokemon games. The game will occasionally tell the player what's going on to help them progress through. Combine that with the fact that these are based on the first main series games in the franchise, and you have some of the best games to introduce someone to the franchise. X and Y is also a great back to basics Pokemon game, but this time in 3D, along with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee being made for newer, more casual fans. Next up is one of the most important parts to any video game, the music. Now obviously it's impossible for us to determine which game has the best soundtrack objectively, so instead, we're going to list the strengths of each region's soundtrack they have to offer.
Kanto has the most iconic melodies in the franchise. Everything from the battles to the route themes have set a huge precedent.
Johto has arguably the most consistent soundtrack, with some of the strongest themes in any Pokemon game. A great champion theme, great town themes, great route themes, with even more added in the Johto remakes.
But Hoenn, with its trumpets and drums, has the most consistently epic soundtrack. You'll feel like you're a hero going on a life-changing quest as you traverse through the region of Hoenn, and you'll feel the pressure when battling against the legendaries and various bosses.
Sinnoh has some of the most relaxing, somber, atmospheric themes in all of Pokemon. If your favourite instrument to listen to is the piano, the soundtrack is a must listen to, with debatably the absolute best route themes in any Pokemon game.
Unova has the largest and most complete soundtrack. It's definitely the least lazy project Game Freak has ever undertaken. Every person, place, and battle has a different theme, the music even changes based on the situation, or a major shift to a more intense track when your Pokemon are at low health. Not to mention all the new bangers and updated themes we got in Black and White 2. Gen 5 introduced so many dynamic new ways of using music to convey story elements and character development that have become common in more recent Pokemon games.
If you like baguettes and frog's legs...
This video's already long, Alex, get to the point.
Fine. Gala's soundtrack is probably the best leap in quality. Each track is either beautiful and pristine, like the Champion theme, or something completely different compared to past themes, like the Gym Leader theme.
I'm biased here since I think Alola may have my favorite soundtrack, but I think Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon have the most unique and diverse themes in the franchise. Every theme perfectly fits the subject matter, whether it be Haoli's relaxing island bop, Lusamine's crazy battle themes, Gladion's angsty bass, Mali City's Japanese vibe, or Ultra Necrozma's godlike and alien theme.
And finally, the Gala soundtrack is arguably the most necessary. The soundtrack complemented the gameplay extremely well, and that gym battle theme though, with some small details in some of the songs like people chanting or wolves howling, the story would be incomplete if these details weren't included.
When it comes to shiny hunting, shiny hunters prefer Let's Go, considering shinies literally show up in the overworld, arguably the most addictive shiny hunting experience.
And finally, we have spin-offs, which, well, we're not going to be covering in this video. Instead, Ron and I have another video completely focusing on them on my channel. So, if you're craving more, please be sure to check that video out here.
But if you came from Alex's channel, make sure to check out my other videos, and like this one if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more, and check the description for all the music I used, the t-shirts I made you guys, my Twitter and Instagram, as well as my Patreon. I'll see you guys very soon.